Sebastian Vettel pleased the home crowd at the last race in Germany by breaking Kimi Raikkonen's 3-race winning streak to retake the top step of the podium. The statistics now look stark for the rest, as Ferrari have taken 7 race wins out of the last 8, and even when they didn't win in Monaco, both drivers still took to the podium behind Daniel Ricciardo. It's because of this that the championship fight has now begun to exclude Valtteri Bottas, becoming a two-way Ferrari battle for the title. It couldn't be much closer, as Kimi and Seb are separated by just 8 points going into the 12th race of the season. Should this race follow the pattern of Germany with another one too, Sebastian could bring that gap down to just a single point to his teammate going into the summer break. Hello and welcome back to race 12 of the F1 2018 Kimi Career, and today's race is the final one before the traditional summer break. We head to the Hungarian Magyar Nagadic just outside of Budapest. This track was a happy hunting ground for Ferrari last year in 2017 in real life. Seb took first and Kimi took second, and if that is repeated this weekend, then at the summer break the two Ferrari drivers are 1 point apart. That is it. And it is feeling like it is becoming a bit of a two-horse race. Valtteri Bottas had a really good start to the season. 5 podiums in the first 5 races. After that, he's only took 2 podiums in the next 6 races. And Lewis Hamilton, despite a few good results, just hasn't been there all season. He had a really difficult start to the season. And I think even if he has a brilliant end to the season, even if he wins every single race from now to the end of the season, it's going to take a bit of a disaster for Ferrari to give up that Drivers' Championship. But coming into this season, we wanted to do a couple of things, really. The first one was to win the Drivers' Championship. If not win the Drivers' Championship, then it'd be a second fiddle to Sebastian Vettel and make sure that Ferrari won the Constructors' Championship in Kimi's final season. The season hasn't turned out like that at all, though, because Mercedes just haven't really been there. They started, well, as I said, with Valtteri Bottas, but Ferrari have really dominated ever since those first 5 races. And it is becoming a two-horse race. But equally, at the start of the season, we were giving our teammate a lot of latitude. You know, if we needed to let him pass, then fine. But now, I think that latitude has to start decreasing. Yes, we're not going to race him as tight as we are with, say, the Mercedes or our other competitors. But we can't just let him win. And I think in Germany, our qualifying did let us down. The qualifying, particularly in these 25% races, is massive because the 2 drivers at the front of that race, Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo, really got away very quickly. And although we had the better of the pace in the second stint, we were too far behind Sebastian Vettel. It was too much of a gap to make up. And particularly around here, the Hungaroring, which is second only really to Monaco in terms of overtaking. In terms of an obvious overtaking spot, it's only really going into turn 1 after that DRS zone that there's an obvious opportunity to overtake. Qualifying is going to be crucial here. The main thing is that it's all dry. There's no wet weather conditions planned this weekend, no rain. So that's good for us in terms of having a stable qualifying because it was a little bit messy in Germany. But nevertheless, we've got to show a strong pace. Don't know what to expect this weekend, but hopefully it's another strong weekend for us in Hungary. So without any further ado, let's see how we get on in the all-important qualifying session. Coming up to the end of our banker lap then in this session. It looks pretty good so far. It's not been the best lap. It's been fairly clean though, but not a spectacular lap to start off this session. Seb has set a banker of a 117.5. We were a 10.5 clear in that second sector. So what's it going to be? It's a 117.5. So we lost a couple of attempts in that last sector, sorry. Now we haven't really got enough fuel on board to do a second lap. Bit of a miscalculation from me. I'd have liked to have done 2 laps to start this off. But it's quite clear we've got pace in the first 2 sectors. Perhaps that third sector is somewhere we've got to work on though, because we lost a couple of attempts to our teammate there. Let's see what Lewis's lap's made of then. We know our comparison to our teammate, but are the Mercedes going to turn up this weekend? That is a certain yes. He's a couple of attempts clear of Seb on the first lap. I think it was a 117.5, wasn't it? So yeah, Max Verstappen as well. A name that's hardly been mentioned this season. He's just not been there at all. With a fastest third sector. I mean, look at that. We set a very good second sector. So put all the cars together and you get a theoretical best of a 116.7. Daniel Ricciardo now going to the top of the timesheets. What about Valtteri Bottas? Is it just a case that this track is ramping up? Valtteri Bottas possibly suggests not. He goes into P4, but we're P6. That is a bit of a shock, given the 2 Ferraris were the ones to beat in the last race in Germany. And really for this sort of second phase of the first half of the season, we're very much on the back foot. It looks like that Red Bull are competitive this weekend, and that's both Red Bull drivers, not just Max Verstappen. But Daniel Ricciardo up there as well, so it's Red Bull and Mercedes, the top four. And we've got some ground to make up, and that's not just a couple of tenths, that's quite significant. Now, whether the track has ramped up, possibly, I don't know. But looking at ourselves, we're good in that second sector, which actually surprises me, because I feel like that's where I struggle the most, in those tight and twisty corners. You've got to make your braking zone, or else you miss the next apex. It's a very difficult section, that is. But it looks like we're losing a little bit in those first and third sectors. Now, maybe that's setup driven, that I have gone for a bit more of a downforce led setup to help us in those tight corners. So we maybe haven't got the pace on the straights. But Daniel Ricciardo's second sector would suggest that, you know, he's got the best of both worlds at the moment. So quite a lot of time to make up. Possibly we might go for 3 runs here, because we've got the ultra soft tyres to do it. So I think we're going to try and do what I was going to do last time. Put a couple more kilos of fuel in the car, do a couple of laps if time permits, and then get out there very late on and do a real pedal to the metal lap, and see if we can prove on what, at the moment, it's going to be a pretty dismal 6th place to start off this Grand Prix. Well, it's clear that both sides of the Ferrari garage are concerned. At least I think that's Seb just ahead of us, you can see, going into turn 1. I think everybody else is in the pits. Both Ferraris are out for a second run, because as I say, a real shock really for us to be this low down, particularly with both drivers as well. But it doesn't look like we're going to make an improvement, or much of a significant improvement. But look at Seb, he's really turned up the notch, so we've got a lot to make up on our teammate. He's gone fastest with a 16.9. The thing is there, what we have got to our advantage, what we've got to think, is that we had more fuel in the car, so that's not going to help us out. I was only running on rich fuel mix on 2 of the laps. You can see we're a lot quicker already, just for the first couple of corners on the maximum fuel gauge. So maybe that might have been letting us down. We'll ride on board until the end of this first sector, shall we? Because this is where we've been struggling so far. A couple of attempts down. Have we made that up? Well, certainly a couple of attempts up. It's not purple, but it's a quarter of a second up at the end of the first sector. Oh, I just can't seem to put a lap together. Middle sector didn't go well for us. It was a really scrappy middle sector. Just didn't hit any of the apexes really at all. And we've lost all the time we gained in that second sector. But as a net, we were pretty much bang on with where we were on that first lap, I think. So let's have a look, see if we can gain anything and possibly scrape past Valtteri Bottas as a minimum measure. I can see that delta's still red. And we're going to gain, well, 16 thousandths of a second. That's not going to do anything for us. We've only got 4 minutes left in this qualifying session. So not long at all to get round the track again. Put a third set of ultra soft tyres on and go for a 1-lap shootout. But this has not been a great qualifying session for us, and if it was the same for our teammate, I guess it wouldn't be as much of a problem with the championship. But with Seb now in P1, that puts a lot of pressure on us to deliver a lap. We know we should be able to find time on this last flying lap. Looking at the race director and looking at our sector times on that lap that we did just then, we were 2 tenths down in the second sector. I said that it was scrappy. So we know we've got 2 tenths per second to find. I think if we can hook a complete lap here, I don't think it's pole position potential we've got today. I don't feel the confidence to just get 6 tenths out of the car. I don't think that's realistic. But I think we can maybe get 3 or 4 tenths and possibly get ourselves second row, maybe even front row at a push. But we have surprised ourselves in the past. Max Verstappen is just behind us here, so he's probably going to want to get ahead. But we'll put maximum fuel mix on, make sure that we drain all the excess fuel out of the car, give us every opportunity to get a good lap together. Well, this is a disaster in the first sector. We're 2 tenths down. So that improvement's not going to come yet. I just feel it's on the limit of overdriving the car if we're not careful here. Just need to make sure we do better in the second sector. Let's ride on board for the rest of the lap. That's better. Caught the curb a little bit too much there. Just so much focus needed through these corners. As I say, if you miss one apex, you then miss the other, and your momentum goes completely. But I can see up in the right-hand corner, I don't know what the delta is, but it is a green delta at the end of this second sector. So we've got the 2 tenths. That was a purple second sector. We know we're good in the second sector. Can we do anything in the third sector? That was a little bit wide there. Penultimate corner, push as much as we can. Get back on the gas before we go into the penultimate corner. This is a 4th gear corner, turning early, but not too early. But we were okay there. Get back on the gas. DRS open. We're better than we were, but still, it's not nowhere near enough. And we pushed as much as we could there, and still, that was only P6. Well, that wasn't a great qualifying session at all. Our teammate really bossed it, didn't he? Sebastian Vettel. He put it up into P1, nearly 2 tenths clear of anybody else. If we'd found just a little bit more, maybe half a tenth, that would have put us on the second row, but it wasn't to be. You can see the clear Formula 1 and Formula 1.5. Blimey, the gap between the top 3 teams and everybody else, nearly a second between us and Carlos Sainz. So there shouldn't be any danger from behind in this race like there was in Germany, but this is going to be a big test for us. We're not too far off Lewis Hamilton in third, to be fair, only a tenth off, but I think Seb is definitely the man to beat. He got the win last time out in Germany. Is the tide just slightly starting to turn? Sebastian Vettel getting back into this. Remember that he has got 18 points on his side, that he did have a DNF in Spain. So had he not had that DNF in Spain, I know it all becomes a bit what-ifs and has-beens and all the rest of it, but we haven't had a single DNF so far this season, so that is a raw points total. Had Seb not had that DNF in Spain, he would have been 10 points ahead of us. But the championship is the way it is at the moment. If Seb does win this race, if we don't finish in P2 behind him, then we're going to lose that championship lead that we pushed so hard to get. Going to be a big race for us, and I think we're going to have to take some big risks here. But equally, we don't want to take risks that put us in the wall. So I think we've got to target a podium as a minimum. Anything beyond that would be a real positive. Let's see how we go on race day.
Hello and welcome as we prepare to get another round of this season underway.
Wasn't that a brilliant lap for Sebastian Vettel yesterday? The only driver to be in the 1:16s, which rightfully is secured in pole position for this Hungarian Grand Prix. We know Formula 1 is a game of very fine margins, and a tenth up would have put us on the second row. It's not to be. We start on the third row, and this start is going to be big for us. I think we have to be bold going down into turn 1, but we have to have the good start to make us bold into turn 1. Fortunately, there's a long run down to that first corner, so if your first phase of the start isn't brilliant, then there is time to improve on that. But I feel like T1 is going to be big here. Again, it's Vettel and Ricciardo on the front row, so those two could pull away. Max Verstappen's a big unknown because he's not been there this season, but he's not going to be an easy man to overtake. So we have to be bold going into the first corner, but not so bold that we cause ourselves an issue, have contact and blow all the points altogether, because that's going to bring Valtteri Bottas back into it. So this is going to be a difficult race. We're going to have to be pragmatic about it. I don't think the race win is on for us today. That we've been on for the race win in so many races recently. This is going to be a different type of challenge. We've got to try and build from P6. The last race we started P5. We had slower drivers in front. We knew that. This time it appears we could be the slowest of the 6. But Hungary is a place that isn't great to overtake, which certainly doesn't help us from where we are here. But if we can make a few positions at the start, we can become a bit of a blocker. I'm just a bit concerned about the DRS, possibly, given that we haven't got the most straight line speed adapted setup. And we're away for 18 laps at the Hungarian, and not a great start at all. Wheel spin off the line, that's just what we didn't want. And even the second phase isn't great. I think we can probably hold this position. Max Verstappen pushing Valtteri Bottas out, and that gives us half a chance going into the first corner. Try and get off that first corner, and we have done, so it feels like we might have picked off Valtteri Bottas. Is he going to take that line going into the second corner? He doesn't. Hamilton and Ricciardo battling into the next corner, but crucially for Seb, he's got away well, and this could be a chance for us. Just have a sniff while these drivers in front are battling. It could give us half a chance. Verstappen and Ricciardo battling into that left-hander, but unfortunately, on a track where there's probably 2 or 3 different lines, that might give us half a chance. But unless we go for something bold, it's just not going to happen. And look at the gap that Vettel has already pulled on the rest of the field. Hamilton's going to try and chase him down. He's probably desperate for his first win of the season, going into the summer break with a little bit of positivity to bring into the second half of the season, give him a little bit of motivation to do something in the second half of the season. We know we're good in the second sector. I half thought about a dive down the inside of Max Verstappen there, but there just isn't the room going into that right-hander. Possibly a last lap lunge, yes, but not early in the race like this. I feel we've got the pace on Max Verstappen. Certainly on corner entry, we're gaining massively on the Flying Dutchman. We need to get a good run out of this last corner, and we haven't really got that as such. Sebastian Vettel, no surprise, with the fastest lap. Can we get into the slipstream of Max Verstappen? We certainly can. And is it worth a dive down the inside, going into the first corner? We outbrake ourselves. We make contact with Max Verstappen there. but we have got through. I think that, well, we made contact with Max. I certainly felt a nudge. I don't know how much contact there was and maybe whether that was a bit of a dirty move. But Max Verstappen is known for that himself, so it takes one to no one. And that's another place that we definitely needed. We can just see Sebastian Vettel in the distance, so we've got to make sure we get the time on Daniel Ricciardo so we get the DRS at the end of this lap. It is maximum push mode like we were in Germany in these early stages of the race, because this early phase is absolutely crucial for us having a good finish at the end. Well, how close can you get to the DRS? 1 second and a millisecond, I guess that is, or a thousandth of a second outside the DRS of Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to have it to Lewis Hamilton in front, but if we can stay in that train, well, Seb hasn't really pulled away on this second lap, so he's got a bit of a train behind him. Obviously, we're not going to get the DRS just yet, so it actually might be next lap that we get it. But look at that, fastest lap from Kimi Raikkonen. So maybe in the race we have turned it up a notch. We've left Max Verstappen, and that helps as well because Valtteri Bottas is stuck behind him. That's not going to help Bottas in the championship. He's going to fall even further behind. We are burning a lot of our excess fuel here, but it's going to be critical to stay in that DRS zone. I forgot, to be honest, that it effectively is the end of this lap that it gets activated, isn't it? Because there aren't any DRS zones before the end of this lap. The only concern is that Daniel Ricciardo, I think we've got more pace than Danny Rick, but Lewis Hamilton and Vettel are pulling away a bit, I think, from Daniel Ricciardo. So we've got more pace, I think, than the Red Bull, which is good news because we haven't got that car in front of us. That was horrible going into that corner. Just hit too much of the curb there. That put us out of shape. Don't know if we've got any questions with passing Daniel Ricciardo here. It's going to be keeping up to the top two that's the big challenge. The Red Bull is possibly a bit stronger than the Mercedes in that third sector because he does gain on Lewis Hamilton in that sector, so he has still got DRS on Lewis here. If he hadn't got DRS, it would have been an easier overtake, but still we're gaining. Even with the DRS on Daniel Ricciardo, he goes defensive. See if there's anywhere around the outside that we can make that move. Daniel Ricciardo pushes us out slightly, but it's his line, it's his place, so he's more than welcome to defend it. We go up the inside of Daniel, we make contact. That was a little bit dirty, to be honest. That probably wasn't the best overtake we've ever made. But nevertheless, Daniel Ricciardo concedes that position. I don't think Danny would have done that in real life, and had he done, he would have been straight on the radio to try and get that place back. But as it happens, we have overtook Daniel Ricciardo now, so we're into P3. The gap to Lewis and Seb, well, Lewis ahead of us, is 1.5 seconds. Just look at that excess of fuel. That is very rapidly going to disappear. But we need to use it at the start of this race to give us a shout. So I think maybe on race pace later on, we could struggle. But can we get within a second of Lewis Hamilton? I think it's going to be too much to ask. It's 1.2 at the end of the second sector. So if we have a good third sector, we might get DRS. But if Lewis and Seb start battling, that could be a way in for us as well. Let's just ride on board until the end of this lap. Let's see if we get DRS on Lewis Hamilton. We nearly did. It popped up in the bottom corner very quickly, but then went away. So clearly we hadn't got DRS on Lewis Hamilton. 1.3 is the gap. Danny Rick's got DRS in behind us, but not making enough of a gain to really make any sort of inroads to make an overtake here. But I've got into lap 5 with a bit more confidence than I had at the start of the race. I think if we show the pace we've had early on, could the race win still be on? Well, the front two are in. That's a surprise. That is a massive surprise. But look behind us, Daniel Ricciardo is a lot quicker. I think we are paying for what we did early in the race. Well, the reason Daniel Ricciardo gained on us actually is because he was coming into the pit. So that looked like he was coming up the inside. He actually wasn't. Now, at the start of the race, the option was there to pit on lap 4. I thought that was too early, and the Delta suggested that lap 6 was the best lap for us to pit. So, can we do the overcut on the guys behind us? Fortunately, and this is actually the gain of doing what we've done, I don't think there's going to be any risk unless Bottas and Verstappen play a part of losing any time in the pit lane. But as Lewis Hamilton's engineer would say, it's hammer time. Tyres have absolutely gone at this point. I think if we went another lap, they would be absolutely toast. That does concern me, unless the soft is a much more durable tyre. Have we pushed a little bit too much on this soft tyre? Let's see. As we come into the pit lane, we're going to go into lean fuel mix. Make sure we make as much time as possible coming into the box here, but make sure we don't break any speed limits. I think we just did it about right there. I was wondering, is there going to be a penalty that comes up? But I think we stopped just on our marks at 50. Are we going to get out without being disrupted? We're not. Oh my god, that's a horror show. That is a horror show. Carlos Sainz was the man who really didn't help us there. Where are the rest of the drivers? There's nobody yet. It feels like they're just going to come straight away here. Here they are, the two leaders, Hamilton and Vettel. And Vettel has been jumped by Lewis in the pits. That is a disaster for Sebastian Vettel. But that helps us out, obviously. Valtteri Bottas has gained some time in the pits. I feel like we've got no option to run another lap on the rich fuel mix, because being in the DRS is going to be absolutely crucial at the start of this next lap. But to be honest, I just don't think we're going to be close enough. I mean, that gap is going to be possibly 2 seconds. Yeah, 1.8, close enough. I just don't think, however much we push, we're going to be in that race for the win today. I think that's just one step too far. I think a podium is the best we can do. And in fairness for us, if we finish behind Sebastian Vettel and not Lewis Hamilton, i.e. if Lewis wins the race, then we only lose 3 points to Sebastian. And from a constructor's point of view, 37, 33, we only lose 4 points. So, again, it's not a bad race for us really today if it ends like this. But we've got to watch the fuel now. We've got to go into standard mix, definitely. We've gained a little bit on Seb here, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be enough to get us into the DRS at the end of this lap. Is that McLaren starting on an alternate strategy? Is that going to be something that could impact things? I'd say definitely, because given how toasted our tyres were, I don't think anybody could run round, even the driver who conserves his tyres the most, for 8 laps on those ultra softs. Well, Stoffel Van Dorn's been a thorn in our side all season, but is he finally going to come to our aid here? We said that he'd gone on an alternate strategy, and see how much he's holding Lewis Hamilton up now. Wow, we're definitely in the DRS. We've had a very good lap so far anyway. We're back into the DRS of Sebastian Vettel, but of course, this really brings the front group so close together. We saw a bit of this in Canada with the front four fighting together. Valtteri Bottas just lost the time completely on that lap. We've got to get past Stoffel Van Dorn, but do we jump Seb here? I mean, Seb, come on, you've got to get past Stoffel Van Dorn, or else we're going to make the move on you very quickly, because all this time, he's going to be losing time to Lewis Hamilton out in front. He's just not making the move. And we have got a bit of room on the outside. Just, I couldn't really carry enough speed to make it work going into the next corner. Come on, Seb. You've got to go up the inside of Stoffel Van Dorn here. It is critical to keeping up with Lewis Hamilton. We're purple in the first sector. That's not really too much of a surprise because we had DRS. But look at the time we're losing. And we're going to go around the outside of Sebastian Vettel. Vettel's up the inside. This is the kind of teammates battling that we talked about. And we made the move on Seb. We just were forced into that. He was too slow going past Stoffel Van Dorn. And if we're going to win this championship, we are going to have to do things like that. Lewis caught him at a bit of a better time, to be honest, Stoffel Van Dorn, because he had got the opportunity of that front straight. We've got to go up the inside of Stoffel Van Dorn. It's not a blue flag situation. He's not obliged to let us past, but we get past critically. And a lap later, Sebastian Vettel is still behind Stoffel Van Dorn. He's been a thorn in Ferrari's side, sure, this season, definitely. And now our task is to take the lead driver role here and see if we can catch Lewis Hamilton. What a race this would be, though, to catch Lewis Hamilton and win it from P6 on the grid. But I think Seb's finally going to make that move on Stoffel Van Dorn. But just look how much time he's lost to us. And Valtteri Bottas coming back into the party. We're not actually gaining anything really being on standard fuel mix. So we'll push it for a couple of more laps and then we might have to start some fuel saving. We're a bit close to Lewis at the end of lap 10. 1.1 is the gap. Not quite in that DRS yet. A couple of attempts gained on that last lap. So another lap like that, and we could be in the DRS. Not happened again this lap. The gap's actually gone out a little bit to 1.2. So it's how long we persist with this until we go, right, we've got to start saving some fuel. I think we've got at least a couple of laps in us before we start doing that. I think the next 2 laps is when we need to start getting into DRS, because we probably need maybe 3 laps to get this fuel to an acceptable level by the end of the Grand Prix. See where we are at the end of the first sector, because that's where we gained a little bit on the last lap. It's 1.1, so it's negligible, but we've just got to get that extra 10 from somewhere, and we'll get that massive DRS boost. Okay, this is it. There's no question now. We had a brilliant second sector, really hooked it up, and this is most certainly our DRS chance. I mean, just getting in DRS would have been the aim. Not overtaking Lewis Hamilton, but we have really found some great pace on these soft tyres. As I said before, to be battling for the win today is not anything I expected, but Lewis, without a win so far this year, I feel like he's not going to make it easy for us here. But is the power of the Ferrari under the DRS going to be too much for the Mercedes here? Lewis defends the inside line. We make contact with the Mercedes. We've just got too much pace out of that first corner, really. But I don't think you're going to make an overtake going into turn 3 here, or are you? No. But we've got the measure of Lewis Hamilton, I think, now. We have got the pace on Lewis Hamilton. But having the pace is one thing. Making an overtake is another. And again, the fuel, we've got to get that down. That's the other challenge. We are not fighting really with equal machinery here in terms of the fuel mix. That once that goes down to lean, we're going to lose a lot of time. Max Verstappen's out the race, so that's really disappointing for Red Bull. Max has come to the party more so this weekend, but a DNF for Max, whether that's a mechanical failure, whether that's an accident, I don't know. But if it's a mechanical failure, then I think that's at least his second of the season. So rotten luck there for Max Verstappen. Right, I don't really think we were aggressive enough last time round. Yes, Lewis defended the inside to a degree, but, you know, he should have been a lot better. Max Verstappen's in the wall there, so you would suggest that was possibly a crash that's put him out of this Grand Prix. We go up to rich fuel mix. We're a bit further back this time. We go up the inside of Lewis Hamilton into the first corner. Bit of a block pass, but we've done it. We are past Lewis Hamilton. Is Lewis going to fight back? That double DRS really helps the overtaker there because you can gain a lot of time. Now, now we've done that, I mean, we can't count our chickens yet, but do we do the sportsman-like thing for Ferrari here and back Lewis into Vettel? Oh, God, decisions. Let's just focus on our own race for now, eh? Well, Seb just hasn't come to the party, unfortunately. Lewis did have DRS on us the last lap, so that's gained him a little bit of time on us, but Seb is still outside the DRS zone of Lewis Hamilton. I would have not expected this at all to have beaten our teammate in this race. He looks so much quicker than us, but the big thing is now, in those last 2 laps, we've got down the vast majority of the negative delta that we needed to finish this race with a positive fuel delta. So that's going to help us go into the last 3 laps, particularly if there's a mistake to fight back a little bit against Lewis Hamilton. I think we're going to go for lean fuel mix again this lap, just to give us a bit of a delta. If Lewis gets back past us, then we've got a little bit to fight with. But I don't think it's going to be Seb's day today. Could it be Hamilton's? Even running lean fuel mix for most of that lap, we've not broken Lewis Hamilton, but the gap is 8 tenths of a second. So you would suggest this time round, if it was 8 tenths last time, we can run on standard all the way round. Going into the last lap, we should be able to break the DRS of Lewis Hamilton. Whether Seb can then get within a second of Lewis Hamilton, it might be a lap too late, possibly for Seb here. But it looks like we're going to win this race, and that is just unbelievable. I didn't think we got a chance of that coming in. Yeah, we've broken Lewis. 1.1 is the gap. If we can keep that until the end of this sector, and Seb stays where he is and gets DRS on Lewis Hamilton, then just maybe there's half a chance of another Ferrari 1-2. But Lewis Hamilton won't want that to happen. He's already lost first place. He got past Sebastian Vettel early on. Remember, the only reason why Hamilton's ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Vettel, is because he jumped him in the pits. Vettel was P1, so it's been a real crashing down race for Sebastian Vettel because he was in P1. He then got took by Lewis Hamilton in the stops, and then we have taken both of them to look like we're going to win this Hungarian Grand Prix. It wasn't enough for Sebastian on that straight. He's closer to Lewis, but we all know you can't really overtake through this section. Again, you can look at where Seb lost the race today. That battle with Van Dorn, he needs to be more aggressive in getting past Stoffel Van Dorn. Lewis Hamilton just gained too much time when Vettel was behind Stoffel Van Dorn. And it's Van Dorn again that plagues the Ferraris. It's been us early on in this season, and it's Van Dorn that really doesn't help Vettel today. But we can't take any of that away from us, I don't think. We got past Sebastian Vettel. On pace, we then caught up to Lewis Hamilton. And this is going to be the best win of the season so far. In those other wins, I think when we got onto a run, we had got, not what was an unfair advantage, but we got the custom setups on. We were a long way away from the rest of the grid, particularly that Austria race. We qualified well out on pole and, well, won that race pretty easily without any contest. But we've had to fight for this one today, and this is the best win of the season so far. We finished P1, our teammate down in P3. We gained 10 points in the championship race. It's 13 on Valtteri Bottas, so he's now more than a race win behind. And although it's a 2-horse race with Ferrari, we have gained on Sebastian Vettel. It could have been 1 point. It felt like it was going to be damage limitation this weekend. To just be 1 point ahead of Sebastian Vettel and quite possibly behind him going into the second half of the season. So it is a massive game for us today. A great motivational game for us to win the Hungarian Grand Prix from 6th on the grid. Those soft tyres are a lot more durable than I'd hoped they would be, so that was a real positive for us. Again, we pitched a lap late. Did that do something for us? I don't think so necessarily. Disappointing race for Daniel Ricciardo, you have to say. He started P2 and possibly finished P5 in the end. We'll have to have a look at the overall standings. But I did wonder throughout that race, is it finally going to happen? I feel it's going to happen sometime in this season, where the two drivers that we expected at the start, Lewis and Seb, to battle against each other. And that's what it looked like. But in that second stint, we really came to the party. We overtook Seb on the track. We overtook Lewis on the track. There was no question about pit stop strategy coming into it at all there. We did our talking on the track. 5 overtakes today. Yes, some cleaner than others. But we have won the Hungarian Grand Prix. And that is an amazing feeling coming into the summer break with Spa-Francorchamps up next. So indeed it was 5th place for Daniel Ricciardo there. Valtteri Bottas finishing in 4th. Who started in 7th place. They didn't have a good race at all. It was Carlos Sainz who dropped well down the grid. Max Verstappen had the DNF. We'll take a quick look at what caused that DNF. But a really good race from Renault. Hulkenberg to go from 9th to 6th. Solid race from Perez as well. 12th to 7th on the grid. So very solid race from him. Fernando Alonso's got to be disappointed there to only finish in P11. And Stoffel Van Dorn, to be fair, an alternate strategy. I don't think anybody else went for that. And it worked out, could have worked out for him. He was only a second behind Esteban Ocon to get into the points. So, race director, it was a mechanical failure for Max Verstappen that put him out of the race, which is cruel luck for him, really. Yeah, you can see Stoffel Van Dorn, the only driver to go soft, then ultra soft. Carlos Sainz must have had, he had a collision with Verstappen. Maybe he crashed into Verstappen after he had that mechanical failure. I wouldn't read too much into that at all. But the standings after this race, we gain on Sebastian Vettel by 10 points. That gap at the front now is decent. It's not a race. It's not where if we have a DNF, Sebastian Vettel could re-overtake us. But how fitting almost that gap is 18 points. Because if Seb hadn't had that DNF in Spain, we'd be level on... Well, we wouldn't be level... Yes, we would. We'd be level on points because Seb was running P2. So we wouldn't have gained or lost anything from that. If Seb hadn't had that DNF, that's all that's between us. It would have been at a level going into that summer break. That's quite incredible. Valtteri Bottas has lost all of his early season momentum. No podium for him today, so he's now 41 points behind us. Lewis Hamilton second place today, but second places aren't going to be enough to hit for him. He needs a massive second half of the season. And you can see just how bad a first half of the season it's been for Max Verstappen. He's only 1 point ahead of Nico Hulkenberg in the Renault. He's had a solid start to the season. But in the Constructors, no surprise, Ferrari are way out ahead now. It's going to take a lot to stop us in the second half of the season. But I say that, a couple of races and things could all turn around. Just look at today. If today hadn't gone well for us, we could be staring down the barrel of being second in the championship. And Valtteri Bottas gaining on us as well. Who knows? But in that Constructors' Championship, no surprise that Mercedes are well out ahead of Red Bull. They're just not fighting with two drivers, Red Bull, at the moment. Yes, Max Verstappen had the mechanical failure today. And he had a good qualifying. But the rest of the season, it's not really been there for Max so far. Renault, Hulkenberg, we saw he's just behind Max Verstappen in the championship. So they're taking a pretty commanding 4th place. There's a fair gap between all the teams at the moment. So I wouldn't expect much change unless one of the bottom teams has a really good result and propels themselves up into the top of the midfield. But going into the summer break, which hopefully won't be as long as what my quote-unquote fictional summer break was of a few weeks, or maybe even longer than that. We'll be back next week for the Belgian Grand Prix. But that's a big race. That is a massive race for us. We weren't the favourites going in. We've won it from 6th on the grid. If that doesn't deserve a like, I don't know what does deserve a like. But we are going to have weaker races going into the second half of the season. There's no doubt about that. So getting the currency for that run of wins. Again, it's another win for Ferrari. I think Ferrari have now won the last 6 races. So the Scuderia, whether it's Kimi or whether it's Seb, look a little bit unstoppable. But Lewis Hamilton in the last few races, remember in Silverstone he nearly won. He's now starting to come to the party and he might start raining on our parade. Not necessarily coming back into the championship himself, but causing a little bit of trouble between the Ferrari drivers. And again, that gap, it's only 3 points he's cost Seb today. But again, it could be more. It could have been 7 points he cost Sebastian Vettel had we not come to the party. So It's going to be interesting. But that's all going to come in the second half of the season. Another really enjoyable race today. Of course, the race was far more enjoyable than qualifying, but nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. And I'll be back soon for the Belgian Grand Prix, one of my favourite tracks on the calendar, Spa-Francorchamps. But until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until I see you again, goodbye for now.